Peace, love, and blessings, fam. Johnny Sally here with day number 22 of 60. Wisdom of the Ages by Wayne W. Dyer. If you've missed the previous recordings, you can go look them up on YouTube at Loyalty Life, spelled L-Y-F-E, Legacy LLC. Let's get into it. Communication. A poison tree. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I sunned it with my smiles, and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day by day, till it bore an apple bright. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, when that night had veiled the pole. In the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. William Blake. William Blake was an English poet, engraver, painter, and mystic. His poetry is best known for its mysticism and complex symbolism. William Blake is one of my heroes. In his lifetime, he was a consummate poet, painter, and artist, and a visionary mystic who was largely ignored by his contemporaries and considered mad. He lived his entire life on the edge of poverty and died in neglect. Yet today, this man is regarded as one of the most original and greatest figures in literary history, and his original engravings are rare treasures worth millions of dollars. I had devoured his epic poems and quoted him extensively in my lifetime, and deciding what contribution of his to include in this book has been a considerable challenge. His most famous words are the opening lines in Allegories of Innocence, written in 1803. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a haven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour, speaks to Blake's preoccupation with the power of the mind, to perceive the divine creator of all, or the infinite, the value of our imagination, and the oneness of the universe. I have written somewhere in this book on these themes, and so I have chosen a poison tree as another great example of what this madman genius offers you and me today. From his creative pen some 200 years plus ago, while writing in the midst of the French Revolutionary. My apologies, somebody called in, so let me start over from there just in case it didn't pick it up or anything. Okay. From his creative pen some 200 plus years ago, while writing in the midst of the French Revolution, which was transpiring only 100 or so miles from where Blake was writing. A poison tree is a very basic message for maintaining loving relationships through communication. The key thought here is to communicate. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. Such a simple way to express a profound truth. When you feel something, and you have the common sense or the courage to express that feeling to your loved ones, the rage and the fury disappear, almost if by magic. My inclination in the past has often been to stay silent when I feel angry. I admit to wanting to stew about it, play it over and over in my mind, where I have extended dialogues with the person I feel angry toward. As long as I take this position of freezing out my loved ones or friends, the wrath persists. Yet, when it finally does come out, and we are able to communicate about it, expressing our authentic feelings, regardless of how absurd they may sound to the other person, magically and almost instantaneously, the fury subsides. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. This is precisely the lesson that I have had to learn, and I admit to still working on it this day. In past relationships, I created foes out of those I loved the most. The moment I made them foes, I kept my wrath inside, playing intellectual games with myself and creating an unbelievably complex scenario that only I was privy to. Thus, the inclination to keep my wrath within, unexpressed, allowed me to create what Blake calls a poison tree. I would water it with my tears and sun it with deceitful smiles, and the result, it would continue to grow and bear fruit. And the fruit is definitely poisonous. So much so that it would eventually destroy those to whom I had given the tag of foe. There they were, outstretched beneath the tree. The message of this poem is profound. It applies not only in personal relationships, but in dealing with everyone in your life. Anytime you feel that spark go off inside you and your wrath begins to grow, you are headed for a most potential morass. The way out of that potential morass is to stop and make that person a friend rather than a foe. Tell that person, I feel that you are attempting to manipulate me right now, and I would prefer it to stop. This kind of honest, no-nonsense statement will put the wrath aside and inhibit the growth of a poison tree that will ultimately destroy you or whomever has become your foe. Similarly, in close family relationships, when you feel something like anger, practice mustering up the courage to say how you feel without being abusive or loud. I have found with my children that when I give the silent treatment, the anger doesn't subside. In fact, it grows worse because both of us are growing our own poison tree inside because we have made foes of each other. When we sit down and I express how I am feeling and what my disappointments are, it generally leads to an open discussion in which we both express ourselves and ends with a hug and an I love you too, Dad. Amazingly, I told my wrath did end. These are 8 words that you might want to memorize as you think about ways to make your relationships work at a blissful level more frequently. It is inevitable in any partnership for 2 people to have conflict. I often express my feeling that in any relationship in which 2 people agree on everything, one of them is unnecessary. Your soulmate is often the person who is most unlike you, the one who can push the buttons that send you into a frenzy. That person is your soulmate precisely because of this power. When you find yourself in a fury, the person you perceive as causing it is your greatest teacher at the moment. That person is teaching you that you have not yet mastered yourself, that you still do not know how to choose peace, and that button is being pushed. The way to that peace is to tell your friend or lover or your child or your parent or your mother-in-law exactly how you feel. Do this from a position of being detached and honest, and watch your wrath disappear. You will have removed entirely the possibility of nurturing and producing a poison tree. To put the ideas of William Blake's famous poem into your life, begin by following these simple suggestions. 1. When you find yourself in the midst of a freeze-out, either self-imposed or otherwise, break the silent treatment with a simple opener. Say something like, can we both agree to state how we are feeling right now without any judgment about it? Nowadays, I think they call that, I listen but I don't judge. Or we listen but we don't judge. 2. Use your opener to state directly how you feel by prefacing your statement with, I feel. Emphasize that at this moment, What you most need is a loving response to the way you are feeling. Own your feeling and feel your feeling as you would with a friend whom you can count on sharing your feelings with. An issue here is not the problem, but communicating your feelings. Then listen and hear the feelings of the other person with love and without defensiveness about the issue. Befriend the feelings. 3. Give yourself a self-imposed time limit for how long you will stay in a period of no talking. If you say 1 hour, then no matter how embarrassed or hurt you might feel, open the lines of communication. You will see that communicating rather than stifling yourself will end the rage almost immediately. 4. Don't ever go to bed still holding on to your wrath. This will literally impact the field of energy that you both share and intensify the growth of the poison tree. Before going to bed, simply state your feelings and make an effort to show a sign of affection, even if it means losing face and subduing your ego. The more you can create an atmosphere of open, honest, particularly regarding areas of disagreement, the less likely disagreements will become disagreeable. It is in the time of being disagreeable that a seedling sprouts and eventually nourishes a poison tree. I'm sure we all have disagreements with people. And I'm sure some of us, more often than not, get tired of being the bigger person. And there are instances where even if you express your feelings, if it's not received, it cannot be received. Now, if not received, you've done your part. You have chosen not to continue to drink the poison. And drinking the poison or growing the poison tree and in fact expecting it to hurt the other person, yeah, it doesn't work that way. Even staying in states of anger and holding on to wrath, malice, it actually affects you more than you realize. It disrupts your bioenergetic field. Your aura can even change color for those who are able to see it. And that dislike will develop into dis-ease. You're uneasy around the person, right? Because you're frustrated, irritated, angry. Dis-ease, which if held on long enough, can literally turn in your body into a disease. So many people have cancer because they're holding on to something that they just choose not to let go of. That may sound very simple, but when we understand that we are bioenergetic, biomagnetic energy vessels, everything we do affects us. The words we use are very powerful, and he made it very simple. The way to utilize that power is to speak love and life into any situation. Now, me generally, with those I really love and sincerely care about, I've had some people say some mad, wild things to mine, and I still forgave them. Now, there's others that I chose the silent treatment, and it wasn't because I was holding on to anger. I felt they wouldn't understand. And in those cases, once I did express how I really felt, they didn't understand. So that's also a battle that you have to pick in order to win the war. Because I'll say there are some cases where as long as you're not holding on to the malice and growing that poison tree, the silent treatment is what needed for that individual to work out their own thoughts, because a lot of times they know exactly what they're doing. So allow yourself to have the patience with yourself to know when and when not to communicate, and to know how to communicate. Because even though somebody may think they've pressed your buttons and you responded in a certain way, In many cases, that was what's called being, what's the word? I cannot recall it at the time, but it's a word that describes being the most flexible. And the person that is the most flexible in most cases is the most in control. I'll have to look it up and I'll get back to you. As soon as I pressed stop for recording, I remembered the term was requisite variety. You can go look that up and do the research yourself. Again, I appreciate you for being here. Walk in light, walk in peace, walk in love, and know that you are loved.